Here's a secret about crypto nobody has ever told you before. I have a lovely chart to explain it. Bitcoin is explained by global liquidity, and altcoins are explained by the business cycle, the PMI cycle. They are two different things. Okay, we're going to go through what that means. So the fundamental factors, right? What is actually driving Bitcoin? It's different to what drives altcoins. Bitcoin is unique. And statistically, it does different stuff compared to altcoins as a whole sector. And yes, Ethereum is part of the altcoin pack. Okay, so I've even written it here, right? Bitcoin goes up and down with global M2 liquidity, right? So global M2 up and down. So global, I'm going to show you some charts. Global M2 liquidity goes up, Bitcoin goes up. I've even got it here, right? Look at the year-on-year percentage change. So this is Bitcoin year-on-year and global M2. Look at this over the past. This is what happens, right? When they just stop printing money, okay, look what happens. Bitcoin deflates like a balloon to the floor. And then when they start printing money, whoa, we go up. Then they deflate again. See this? The blue line and the yellow line. Okay, that's what happens over time. Statistically, it's been doing that since the start. That's why they call it like the digital gold, because gold does the same thing. Gold, though, its growth rate is much smaller. Gold over like a 20-year period, its growth rate, it fluctuates like between 5 and like 10%. You know, it's the real monetary inflation rate. I think if you actually start 25 years ago, I think gold's been growing at around 6.5%, which it just shows you 6.5% per year, which just shows you that the Kippy, the CPI, the Kippy we call it, it's a Fugazi index, because they're telling you, the government's saying, oh, inflation's only, 2.5%. No, it's not. It's 6. It's 8. Right? That's actually what's happening. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to crank some music for you. I hope you're learning. I know you are. You are my friend, catching you with the Pokeball every single day. So remember, Bitcoin and global M2. They turn on the money printer, Bitcoin responds, okay? Different to altcoins. Altcoins go up and down with the business cycle, okay? Now, what I've written here, manufacturing PMI cycle, because remember, what is the manufacturing PMI? It's just an index survey, and it tracks the cycle very, very nicely. It's this one. I always show it on my charts, right? I always show it on my charts and all my videos. I make it nice and very clean. It goes up and down like a sine wave, yeah? And it actually goes back through that history. So remember, different factors. So Bitcoin, right? They're putting on a money printer. Bitcoin is just like this bucket. It's just like getting the money in. Yeah, that's what's happening. But altcoins, if they keep turning on the money printer, altcoins don't necessarily just respond to the money printer. Altcoins are a function of the confidence, because they are part of the risk curve, right? Well, Bitcoin's on the risk curve as well, but altcoins are further down. So Bitcoin and altcoins, right? They have different fundamental macro factors. The global M2 liquidity cycle is more tied to governments and their monetary debasement policy alongside the debt rollover plan they do. Remember, in 2008, the world economy died. Everyone went bankrupt. Governments, everything was dead, literally dead. All the banks were dead. So what the governments did was they put all the rates to zero, and they say, all right, look, we can't ever pay off the debt. Let's just pay off the interest. And that's what they do. They did it in like 4-year epochs. That's what they did. They put the debt, they make, okay, they go, hey, in 4 years, we'll just, we'll move it on to the next president for US of A, and they can deal with it. That's what they did. They printed money, they have a debt, right? Then in 4 years, what did they do? Instead of like the economy booming so hard, they just get another credit card, pay off that debt, and they roll it over again, and then again, and again. That's the 4-year cycle. That's what we've seen with crypto and Bitcoin, right? Also, so this is important, right? You know this chart, friends, global liquidity in Bitcoin? I've made many posts to show you and other charts as well, but that's global liquidity in Bitcoin. The correlation's 89.5%. Call it 89. That's very high, man. Remember, max is 100%. You move 1 to 1. So Bitcoin is correlated 89% to global M2 over the long term. You want to know what's even more wild as well? The NASDAQ is 95%. Whoa. It's almost like they print money, it goes directly to the tech sector. Which is interesting because that makes sense, right? The excess currency units go into tech. Tech is building network effects. That's what they're doing. The goggles, the Google McDougals, the Amazons, right? The Netflix, they're all network effects. That's tech. Because we're all becoming globalized. That's what crypto helps us to do as well. So yeah, we're removing like passports. We're removing airports. We're removing barriers across nations. Everyone is pretty much, we are becoming all more connected. Financially, spiritually, everything. So I think it's a very clear distinction now. Altcoins are different fundamentally to Bitcoin and rely more on the confidence of investors in the business cycle, right? So the money print is going to keep going on. Bitcoin is correlating to it. That's what the stats say. The money says that. The charts say that since the start. Altcoins are different, right? Being tied to the business cycle, it can be shown on there. So obviously, you know, friends, I always show this chart. So you remember, I put all of this together just because I want to know myself what's going on here, right? Don't forget, right? You don't really need to know all these. Like, you can just go, you know what? I'm just a believer. I'm just holding long-term seers. You get the same result, right? But it's nice to know, you know, when big crashes and dips happen, why are you buying the dip, you know? Like if, let's say in the next bear market, Bitcoin drops an unimaginable amount. Let's say it drops 85%. Like, you want to know, is it ever going to come back, Somi? Because people will say it's never coming back. Oh, there's too many liquidations and stuff. Okay, it's coming back, bro. You know, the correlation is not about to break down because of the global M2. It's just not, we're not going to die like that. They still got to do something with the debt. They have to print more money. They have to debase the currency. So this is the global liquidity cycle, right? And remember, friends, it's literally, so this is the PMI cycle, manufacturing PMI. Remember, there's a services PMI, there's manufacturing PMI. The manufacturing is more closely linked to the economy. So what they do is they grab like this 400 or 500 warehouses, biggest manufacturers in America, whatever. They ask them a survey. They go, okay, give us your number of employees, inventory, all the stuff you purchase, yeah? Because you're a PMI, right? Purchasing Managers Index. You buy employees. You buy, you know, hair shampoo. You buy squeaky chairs for your employees, and they mark them all down, and they track all of them. So what they found this is a long time ago that this is a leading indicator for how the economy is about to do. Okay, so when this thing is going up, that means they're like hiring more. They're buying more stuff. Demand is coming in. And it's very nice to track. That's why it goes through a sine wave. Up and down, up and down, up and down. All right, up and down, up and down, up and down. Okay, so in our crypto cycle, we started here. And what I've done is just by the stroke of luck, or the miracle of God just came to my head. I'm like, you know what? Why don't I just count the days it's below 50? Because no one does that, you know? I did that. No one's ever done that, friends. I want to just look at the data differently because no one in crypto even knew what this freaking chart was, by the way. Okay, only Raoul Powell's showing that stuff. So I want to say, hey, why was it poop for so long? Why? And I started counting the days. And I'm like, well, if you're below 50 in the first cycle of crypto, this was 6 months. This was 12 months, the next cycle. The next cycle, 10 months, 6, 12, 8, 10, right? We had a whopping 30, bro. It's going to keep cranking. 30, 31. What the hell? And I'm like, oh, that explains it. That's why. Okay. Business cycle confidence has been low. But it's strange because if you look outside, you're like, oh, people aren't whinging and crying. But yeah, no, it's not about the whinging and the crying, man. It's about the people who are actually running the manufacturers and the warehouses. Are they buying and employing more? No, they're kind of like slowly bleeding over time. Okay, that's it. Doesn't matter what people think because people's emotions go up and down, right? Okay, but we want to see the real data. So that explains, right? Even though they've printed money, business confidence in the cycle's poop. We actually had the worst in 45 years. To go back to a period of time where it was down for so long, okay? For so long. By the way, this was also bad in 2000, but this is a GFC pop. Sorry, this is the tech bubble pop. And also it ticked above 52. So you had a bit of this resurgence and stuff out here, right? And then you just come back down. But this is about, 30 to 40 months. But you want to go to a period where like it was just cucked for a long time. Yeah, it's pretty much here. 45 years. So it's been pretty trash. Okay, that's why like we didn't have it. It's basically it's worse than the past 3 cycles. It also explains why you're like, oh, why did Bitcoin keep going strong? Well, they kept printing money, they kept doing stealth printing money, but the business cycle was bad. There you go. You can just think about, friends, maybe in the next cycle, 2028, 2029, maybe they don't print as much money, but the business cycle is just healthier. That could happen, which means altcoins have a better experience in their Bitcoin halving year of 2028. Also interesting, the ETH BTC chart can be overlaid to the PMI. Do you know that? And look, it pretty much matches it. Very interesting. So pretty much you can match others BTC or ETH BTC, the ratio of the altcoins versus Bitcoin. They follow the business cycle. Pretty cool. So remember as well, friends, for my presentation here, for both Bitcoin and altcoins, there are other factors that impact them. Of course there are, but I'm just giving you this big picture stuff. Yeah. Like for example, there's gold impacting Bitcoin. But also gold gets impacted by the global M2 too. So they're all linked. Okay. But I'm just telling you, it's not like as simple as this, but it's actually pretty close. This is like as good as you're going to get. Everything else almost irrelevant. All right. There's a lot of chaos and randomness, but overall for altcoins, that's the truth. So note that, right? This is important. The government cannot force optimistic business vibes into the economy by printing money. Trust me, if they could, they would do it every day. You would too. If all it took to make everybody feel good was just, hey, print more global M2 liquidity, they'd all be doing it. It doesn't work like that. It also has emotions and swings, right? It gets people buy too much, order too much, and they have the rinse out. Okay. So that's why the government's role and the central bank's role is to try to smooth that out. They never want the highs to be too extreme. That's why they started hiking rates in 2021. And then when the lows get bad, they cut rates, or they're doing like QE, and that's what they do. Also creates more problems, by the way, when they try to do that a lot, because the lows never get so low that they just like wash all the necessary dead weight off. They call, basically you become like your toxic dead weight. You hang around. So it's all cyclical, friends, all of it. So what's next? Well, I just simply believe business confidence is going to keep tick up above 52, and we can start proper alt season again. That's what I think. That's what, if you're long altcoins, you think that same thing too. Okay. So we don't know what happens for me, but now you know. Yeah. Also probably interesting, right? Just to think about, okay, if Bitcoin follows global liquidity, right? That's what the stats say. And then altcoins are more in tune with the business cycle. I wonder if there's a relationship between, the global liquidity and the business cycle. Well, yeah, no, but I'll just explain to you, right? They can print money all they want, but the business cycle still occurs. Yeah. The printing money, it's a response to stuff. Okay. The business cycle is more like our emotional swings. The business cycle is about, I think, like 3.5 to 5.5 years. It is about that. That's what happens over time. Okay. It's very interesting. Now, you might also ask like a, Easter egg question. How come the stock market doesn't have like this cycle stuff out here? Well, stock market, friends, it's a lot more complicated, because the stock market, remember, it has DCA Ponzi money coming in. It has monthly $60 billion of DCA Ponzi money coming in. So people who pay no attention to the valuations are forcefully buying the thing. So it's making it harder to show itself as all the cyclicality of things out here, right? So that's one issue. Another issue is just how complicated it is when you match up the US dollar and the US government, and it's America is a consumption economy. They're buying off China, they're buying off Vietnam, they're buying off India, right? And then money's being sent, it gets sent back to their countries, who then come back and reinvest into America again. So that's what makes it harder to see, right? With crypto, we have more accentuated ones out here, because when crypto goes down, the government doesn't come in and go, oh my gosh, let's print money and tax everybody to fix it. We don't get that. When we go down, everyone says, ha ha, you all lost all your money. Okay, which is cruel, but that's capitalism. That's how it works. But also, when we go up, we don't get capped. You can get your 10x. You're not going to get your 10x in the stock market. So you learned a lot today, didn't you, friends? Like, subscribe, bell button, or catch you soon.